Hi, my name is Anne Marie, and I'm a member of the Sunfire Stable show team with another installment of I signed up for the show team. What's next? I am very pleased to be here today with Travis Bourne, who has literally just gotten done judging the Sunfire Stable's 20th annual student horse show. The dust is barely settled, but he's taking the time out with us to discuss the topic of a judge's perspective. And we talked a little bit about beforehand about what the perspective is. So Travis, I'm just going to turn you over to the microphone and let you explain.
All right. Well, so like we talked about a little bit ago here, what a judge is looking for when you step out in that pen, right? So I would say the number one thing that I am looking for is I'm looking for someone that comes in with some confidence.
Okay.
Okay. I want someone that comes in there and shows me they want to be there, that they have a purpose to be there, and that they want to do well. Okay. I want that person to come in and kind of tell me from the get-go, like, hey, look at me, watch what I can do. Okay. That would be my number one thing that I'm looking for.
Okay.
Okay. If we want to break this down a little bit more, as far as, say, we have a rail class. Okay. So we have these people come in, and I'm kind of looking at that as you guys walk through the gate, and we're getting ready to go, and then it comes down to kind of the criteria of functional correctness, I would call it. So we want someone that comes in and takes all their leads.
Okay.
Walks, trots, lopes, canters, that kind of stuff, as the judge is calling for it. Someone that gets the correct diagonals, doesn't break gait. That would be my next thing that I'm looking for in my rail class.
Okay.
So when we move on from that, I would say the next thing I'm looking for is brokenness. Brokenness and the third thing would be consistency. Kind of go together in my mind. Okay, so we're looking for that horse that comes in and it goes around, it does its job. Every time I look at it, it looks the same. It's got minimal cueing. That horse that just goes around, does its job, is a good old horse. Okay, that would be the next thing that I'm looking for in that rail class.
Okay.
And then lastly, we're talking about quality movement or degree of difficulty. How well does that horse move? Are they using its back end? Are they rounding its back, lifted up in its shoulders? That kind of stuff, and then your speed and all that. But truly, like that quality of movement, degree of difficulty piece, it comes in last. First you have to come in there with a purpose. You have to be functionally correct, get your leads, get your diagonals, and that kind of stuff. And then, be broke, be consistent. Okay, and then lastly, have a little degree of difficulty. Okay, and it is in that order that I'm looking at the exhibitors. Okay. If we want to move into, say, a pattern class, I would say that we would want to tell people, make sure that you know your pattern.
Right.
Okay? Make sure you know what side of the cone to be on. Make sure you know where your transitions are supposed to happen.
Right.
Really know the pattern, know what kind of drawing you need to have.
Okay.
What size of drawing you want to have, and make it specific to your horse, and your horse's capabilities. Because the biggest thing that I want to see is a rider that is setting themselves up for success.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
If you have a big horse, you might be making quite a bit larger circles than someone with a small horse. Okay. At the same time, if you have a real tight little jogging horse, you might not want to make as big of a circle because you might get a little boring.
Right.
You just got to know your horse and present it to the best of your ability.
Sure.
That would be, to me, one of the big things that I see all the time in classes. Just make sure you know the pattern.
Right.
And you know your horse. Okay. Because we always practice to be perfect, but we never will be.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But how do we try to set ourselves up to do the best we can?
Sure.
And then when we have those imperfect moments, how do we get out of them? Because we could do something could happen, and it might not be exactly how we wanted it to, but if we don't move on from that, if we don't figure out, okay, if I just make this adjustment to set myself up for the rest of the pattern, you got to remember that's one maneuver that maybe isn't perfect. You can make the next 4 or 5, excellent maneuvers and still plays very well.
Exactly. And you don't know how anybody else is going to go either. I mean, they could have jumbles and stumbles as well.
We don't have a crystal ball, you know, the magic 8 ball, we don't have that. We can't shake it beforehand and figure out how
Right.
it's going to go.
Right.
So, you know, you just got to remember to always do the best you can
Okay.
and constantly be analyzing, thinking, how can I set myself up for success?
Okay.
How can I make myself succeed?
Right.
You know, and that would be the biggest thing. And you had asked, you know, in this interview if we could do something specific to today, and I would say if you go back and look at your walk, trot, canter classes.
Okay.
We had in our equitation there, we had the first jog from A to B. Most people were very good. And then we had our jog or our trot circle on a right diagonal. Okay, a lot of people didn't use the space back down towards the A cone
Okay.
to come in straight to lope off on your then right lead,
On
a
your
circle
right
to the
lead.
right.
Okay.
Okay, a lot of people cut the bottom of that circle off, which then forces them to cut the top of the right lead circle off, which only makes it harder for them to guide because now we got a sharper guide. So it's kind of that trickle down effect. If people, you know, kind of use their space a little bit better
Right.
today, they could have probably set themselves up to have a little smoother, you know, better flowing pattern,
Okay.
which in return they would probably do
Place a little
yeah,
higher.
they
Right.
probably could
Right.
replace a little bit better.
Right.
You know, just little things like that that can set you apart in a pattern.
Right. Well, and that goes back to what you were saying. Know your pattern and know your horse. If it's going to be a tight curve and you're riding, you know, either a pony or anything in between, use that space well to set yourself up for success. There's one thing I want to go back to for just a moment. What you were talking about, that the horse is broke and that he's consistent, you know, each way around. How about the rider? You know, I'm riding and I switch hands and I...
So I would say, you know, maybe one thing that we jumped over that we definitely need to go back to is after we said that we want a rider that comes in with confidence and all that stuff, we also need to be aware of our rules.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
You know, and granted today here, you know, we had a kind of relaxed set of rules on a
Right.
lot of things, but, you know, maybe for like your show team that goes out to some of these other open shows, you know, make sure you know how to properly hold the reins in your hand.
Okay.
Make sure that you know like proper tack, proper equipment, proper tires.
Right.
You know, make sure that you know all those things because, you know, the worst thing that, you know, feeling that you could have is at the end of the day not knowing why you didn't place,
Right.
even though you were maybe one of the better riders or had one of the better horses there
Yeah.
that day.
Yeah.
Because say, you know, in a class you were holding your reins, you know,
Double-handed and you're...
in a bridle. Yep,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
Or yeah, you were holding it in one hand, but you had more than one finger between the reins, or
Right.
you know, it could be anything of that.
Right.
You know,
Wrong bit, wrong curb chain. Just so many little details that make the whole picture for you as a judge
absolutely.
very imperative. Because when you're looking at 6 horses and they're all pretty much the same, and you see one that has the wrong curb chain on, you know.
Well, and that's just it, and it is the whole picture, but at the same time, that's one thing that DQs you.
Right.
Takes you right out of it.
Right.
You know, I mean, your whole picture still could be a lot better than a lot of people, but don't take yourself out on a technicality.
Okay.
That
I think it may have happened
Yeah.
to me one time.
See what Noah has to say.
Is there anything more specific to this show at the Sunfire, 20th annual student show that you saw that you particularly liked, that you thought we could maybe improve on?
You know, I think what you guys do here is amazing. I think it takes special people to do what you guys do here. And, you know, I would say that if anything, you know, if anyone ever watches this, if you know, check these guys out. You know, it's a great place. They do an amazing thing. You know, is there anything you can improve on? I can't say that there's one specific thing that stood out during the day, like, hey, you know, you guys should do this or that differently. You know, you guys have a great bunch of horses to ride. You guys, you know, have a great bunch of kids riding them and adults.
Right.
You know, but you know, I really think that what's going on here is truly something that is great because you know, this is definitely, we always talk about everyone's got to start somewhere.
Right.
And, you know, this is a place where someone can get their start.
Right.
You know, and sometimes people decide that they want to take this, you know, all the way to the top. And,
Right.
and some people decide is all I need.
Right.
And either or is okay.
Is absolutely perfect.
Exactly, and I think that we actually need more places like this. And like I said, I think it takes a special people to be able to do that.
Right.
So,
Jen and Dean have done a very good job. As far as, I'm going to throw out a little bit of shout out to you. When it was announced that you were going to be our judge for our 20th annual Student Horse Show, there was a loud huzzah because many of us have showed under you before, and even hearing the comments today that your feedback is good, you're kind, you're nice to people coming in, that makes a huge impression on when you're exhibiting and you're not confident, to see a judge that doesn't have a skull on his face and helps you along with what you're doing. So I think that probably will wrap it up, unless you have anything else to say, Travis. I thank you very much for taking the time out to do this, and I'll send you the link, and I'll catch you on the next videos.
well, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.
Past the other
Thank
day,
you
and I was
so
like,
much.
Absolutely.
All right, see you. Yeah, I'll turn this off.